Good evening. You're watching Latino Talk TV. I am your host, Jose Luis Jimenez.
My name is Ben Mendez.
And I'm Greg Compian.
Welcome to our show. You're watching us here live in Houston, Texas at the wonderful Houston Media Source Studios. If you ever thought about being on television or ever thought about doing your own show, join us here at Houston Media Source, all right? So let's talk about what's going on out there. Ben, what's going on?
Well, for most people, anyway, it was the first day of school.
Yep.
And HISD has a big bond election coming.
That's right.
$1.89 billion. What are your thoughts on the bond election?
I want to see what they actually did with the previous bond. Did you see the article that came out today on HISD? Dr. Greer went out to a school and then he's walking by one of the boys' bathrooms. You can actually see the urinal straight in there. I mean, wouldn't that be considered shoddy design work off the get-go?
So are you saying you're against it or for it?
Well, I want to see what was actually done with the first bond. Why are we still not complete with some of those projects? Why are we asking for more money when we're not even there yet?
I think it's a terrible time to be spending more money. I mean, when is it going to stop? They're talking about it's just going to raise the taxes $100 a household. Give me a break. I mean, it's $100 here, and it's more than that. When is it going to stop? It's ridiculous already.
I am all for the bond election. I tell you what, our kids make up those schools. If you look at the population of HISD, it's predominantly minority, 90%. And most of those are our kids. And so I'm all for putting monies into schools.
I disagree with you, though, because if you look at the breakdown of where the money is spent in HISD, we got one representative, Manuel Rodriguez, who I don't know what the hell he's doing, what he's thinking, but he's not out there fighting for our people. So I agree. I disagree with you. That money is being spent in Bel Air, is being spent at the other schools. It's not being spent with our kids. I would almost disagree with you on that.
Well, I think what's going on is we're trying to use a small cup and we just have an open water fountain. What we're seeing is a huge population growth. We got a lot of kids coming into schools. We don't have, every time we design a school, we're only designing it for like 2 or 3 years out. By the time the school is built, we're already 3 times the capacity that needs to be done. So we're underbuilding these campuses.
I think there was one mistake made by HISD, and that was the dollar amount. During this time period, there's 4 or 5 different bond elections going on at the same time. I know Metro has one, City of Houston, HCC, and I'm not sure if there's any others out there, but I tell you, it's bad timing for that kind of money.
I really think it's the fact that we have, for us as property owners, it's great that we have such low tax rates, but that's why these boards have to keep coming back asking for more money, because they can't sustain with the amount of money they're actually collecting right now. So they're underfunded already. So would there be a need for a bond election if they actually collected enough revenues or enough taxes on the front end, if they actually raised the tax base 1 or 2 cents?
Yeah, I think what you got to look at is you look at the whole number as a whole, and then you look at who's really getting the money. And this pie in the sky that we're getting it in our community, I hate to tell you, brother, but you wake up and smell the coffee. We're not.
Oh, you're absolutely right. There's some big dollar amounts on the other side of town. But again, who makes up the majority of the students in HISD? It's Hispanics, or I should say minorities.
Yeah, but that's just the building. But do the teachers get a raise or the kids get new books? I've been to brand new campuses where the library was empty. Beautiful, beautiful campus, and the library was empty because they couldn't afford books. Because it's site-based management, the principal has to make a decision between feeding the kids or buying more books for the library. I think
you guys are looking at the small little things, and you're not looking at the big picture. The money's going to the boys downtown. That's where the money's going.
All the engineering and design.
Oh man, give me a break. That's where your money's going. It's not in the little. Y'all are looking at this instead of this.
I'm looking at the kids, but I understand where you're coming from because I see big money also. I see the big dollar signs. All these big contractors, architectural firms, engineering firms are making some money. But then again, they hire folks. They create jobs.
Yes, they do.
But what about the waste? Look at the waste. I mean, all the waste that's in a lot of these portable buildings, and they're empty, and yet they've got water and AC running full. So there's got to be some type of checks and balances there. I think it's a terrible idea, terrible time, and I think it's a waste of our money.
Well, I'm actually going to sort of disagree on this one. I do think they need new campuses. I do think they need to invest into our children, but there needs to be a flexible design because neighborhoods are changing and the population shifts all the time. It's no longer like back in the days in the 50s and 60s where a community would keep growing. Now everybody moves around so much that one year a campus might have 600 students, but the next year might be 800, and the year after that might be down to 400. So there needs to be some flexibility in design, and somebody needs to get creative with that.
Let's go on to another topic of interest. The Republican Party is having their annual convention.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as you all know, the tropical storm Isaac is in the way right now. So we'll see what happens with that Republican convention. There's going to be some headliners. I believe Ted Cruz is going to be one of those speakers, if I'm not mistaken. Ted Cruz won the Senate race here in Texas, and they're going to highlight him. What do you think about that?
I was looking at a deal on CNN last night. Say Romney revealed like his upbringing, and he's got a good story. He really does. I mean, you got to give that to the guy. I mean, the man's smart. He's successful. Is he my choice? No, but still, I mean, he brings a lot to the table. You got to give him that much.
Well, his dad's sort of Mexican. He is. The dad was born in Mexico. That's from Mexico.
Are we talking about the same person?
Yeah, Mitt Romney. You know, he's from Chihuahua. I think his cousin lives in Chihuahua and lives on the other side. He has, vote for Mitt Romney. Is it Chihuahua? I mean, that's where he's from.
Interesting. I hadn't heard that one, but I know
it's true.
I know you heard about Roger Clemens.
Yeah.
He's pitching he's back in the flow. Do you think he's going to be looking to go to the pros?
Man, sometimes you just have to, retire when you're on top. You just got to give it up.
Yeah, he's pitching for the Skeeters. They're in Sugar Land, and as you all know, that's not the National League or American League. But I think he has his eyes set on the American League.
Ben, you got to take your hat off. 50-year-old guy, still out there, able to throw an 87-mile-an-hour fastball. Man, I say go, Roger, go. Heck, 50 years old? Phew.
I can imagine the dollars that were made because he joined the team, and people want to go out and see him.
Yeah, Skeeters are going to be out there again.
They're going to be put on the map, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is Lance Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
They're taking away his titles. As you all are aware, there's some discrepancies in what is being said. Some say that he was taking some drugs. Some people say he wasn't. He decided not to fight it anymore and decided, you know what, I'll give up all those titles.
Wow. Well, I think it's interesting, but at the same time, I guess you just get tired of fighting after a while. And who knows what the truth is?
Look at what it would cost him to defend his name and record. I almost agree with him. Heck, it's all big money today.
He knows what he did. They're not going to take away his
lawyers,
money.
man, they'll just kind of take you for everything you got. You got to watch them, I don't blame them.
Are we having a lawyer on the show today?
I think there's a guy who called himself one.
I think we got the Tea Party next.
Oh, okay, we do. No. Actually, I heard that you got a personal invitation to the convention this year. Is that true?
Oh yeah, from who?
John
GOP?
McCain.
No. From Jacob Monty?
Yeah, actually, let's look at something positive here, y'all. Yes, I'm going to say this, but the GOP actually has more Latinos, prominent Latinos, at the convention than the Democratic Party. I mean, you gotta give them some credit there. You may not agree with everything the GOP says, but they have some prominent Latino leaders over there. And look, Ted Cruz,
Marco Rubio. Yeah, no, I agree.
So
I'm looking forward to the discussion that we're going to have with Jacob Monty and Tony Diaz.
That's right. We're actually going to discuss today, for our guests out there, we're going to discuss the actual deferred action and what's actually really going on in the community with the so-called DREAM Act. Now that it's actually been in place for a few weeks, we want to talk about what's going on, what the facts are, and what some of the lies that are going on out there. For some people, this DREAM Act has actually become one of the biggest nightmares because they're spending all this kinds of money and they have no place to go. So we're actually going to have two guests to talk about how they're trying to protect the dream, and we're also going to have some dreamers join us in a little bit, okay? So you're watching Latino Talk TV. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching Latino Talk TV. You're back. Now we have our guest, Attorney Jacob Monti. Welcome.
The Honorable.
The Honorable.
Hey, the only way we got Jacob back on the show is we told him that Roland Garcia wouldn't be here. Roland beat him up so bad last time.
Well, we also have to mention the fact that he's on the University of Houston board. He's a regent.
Thank you. Yes, proud to be here and proud to talk about the deferred action for childhood arrivals, something we can hopefully all agree on.
Awesome. And we also have Tony Diaz here. Welcome.
And Libre Traficante, happy to be here. Happy to be here. You guys throw some hard punches here. This is good. This is gonna be a good.
We got the novelist and the radio talk show host, Tony Diaz.
Thank you very much.
And el Libro Traficante followed you all the way out
community
there.
activist, man. When you were beating up the county about the piñata deal, here's the guy.
The piñata wars. You mentioned that. Yeah, there were signs in Harris County parks that said no piñatas allowed in the park. But luckily, the Honorable Judge Craigle thought better of it, took them down, and we've been talking about the ordinance.
Gotta give that man some credit. I'm really impressed with him. I'm actually very impressed with him. Also, you have your own radio show?
Yes, on 90.1 FM, KPFT. It's Nuestra Palabra. Latino Writers Have News Say on the air every Tuesday.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get into what we're here to talk about. Tell us what's going on out there now that the deferred action is in place. What are some of the horror stories? Some of the good things and some of the horror stories that are going on out there. Either one.
Can I do a good thing really quick? Because you had mentioned the politics, Democrat versus Republican. I think you can guess what I am. But still.
These are Republican. That's right.
Having said that, we started a nonprofit called Protectors of the Dream. People can find out more at protectorsofthedream.org. But it's crosses party lines, socioeconomic lines. It is Democrats teaming up with Republicans for our young. And the bottom line is that we've been raising funds to give grants for the deferred action filing fees, which are $465 just to apply. What people don't get is it's not a guarantee. You could get rejected and the money goes out the window. Okay. So we do want people to apply. The first round is coming up. We'll have subsequent rounds. Nick, go to the website to apply. But it's been a great teaming up, though.
It's been awesome because there are a lot of kids out there that are in school. They've used all their money to pay that in-state tuition. They're not eligible for a lot of financial aid, and they don't have the $465 to apply for the deferred action process. So the Protectors of the Dream decided to mobilize and get the business community involved in funding some of these DREAM Act participants. So we're excited. I'm excited to partner with a Democrat. I haven't done that all the time, but it's something that everyone should be able to agree on. These are kids who, through no fault of their own, were brought to this country, and now we got to give them a chance at achieving the American dream.
And the other thing, before the sparks fly, the other thing too is I think a lot of Texans are past the emotional stage on immigration, and even the business people are saying, E-Verify doesn't work. It's a talent drain. So the idea is too, we're matching up the business community with some of the dreamers, and not just having them invest in the scholarships or the grants, but then hopefully once they're ready to apply and they have the work permits for internships, jobs, and add that professional base to the movement.
I'm glad you said that. Look how Texas is reacting to the DREAM Act or deferred action, and contrast that to Arizona. Governor Perry's already said that these children will get driver's licenses. The business community is excited about the DREAM Act or deferred action for childhood arrivals. Contrast that with Arizona. You have that crazy Governor Brewer, who, in my eyes, she's not a Republican. Her positions are nativist. She's taking a very strident tone with children who didn't choose to come to this country, and I think it's mean-spirited, and I can't wait for her to retire.
Wow. Let me chime in real quick. The phone number is 281-846-5079. If you're watching, you want to participate, this is actually a live show right now. If you want to call in, if you have any questions, or you have any comments, do so. So, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I'm curious. I know you're a Republican. You've been a Republican since I've known you. How do you feel about the Republican Party being anti-dreamers, if you will?
Well, I don't think that most Republicans are anti-dreamers. In fact, I'm very proud to say that for the first time in the history of the Republican Party, we have a platform that calls for a guest worker program. And I know it's a small step, but considering where other platforms have been, and I worked with a fellow Houstonian named Brad Bailey, and we actually changed the Republican Party platform in Texas, and then we took it to Tampa and we changed it over there. It hasn't gotten a lot of media. There's a Wall Street Journal article on it. But look for this guy named Brad Bailey. He's gente. I've already given him his honorary Mexicano certificate. I mention it because we need Anglos to talk about immigration reform. You know, Hispanics have been talking about it for 12 years now. Mm-hmm. But it's a business issue, and it affects business, it affects national security. We need immigration reform, and the entire American community has to get involved. It's not a Hispanic issue, it's an American issue.
Speaking of Anglos, we can't go without saying Stan Merrick. He's a champion of immigration, top of the line businessman in Houston. My hat's off to Stan.
You know, I always said when immigration reform does happen, and it will happen, we're going to have to do a corrido for these Anglos that stood with us, like Stan Merrick, like Norm Adams, like Brad Bailey, like Tamar Jacoby, because they deserve to be celebrated. I mean, they get attacked for supporting us. And absolutely, we got to get a corrido going for them.
Well, and you know, if I can chime in too, the other cool thing, this is a Texas thing. Now the states, okay, evil states. I can work with Republicans. I can't work with Arizona Republicans because if you ban our literature, the Libro Traficantes will show up on your doorsteps with banned books. Having said that, that's the one line we can't negotiate. Having said that, though, if you look at the states, of course, Arizona is working against the DREAM Act. Nebraska, New York is giving funds, but to nonprofits, not directly to students. Chicago is getting funds for their Illinois DREAM Act. This is a Texas thing, where the grants go directly to the students. And if they've, you know, if the application is if they've given community service, what their version of the American dream is, and the whole idea too is get them ready for their first job interview. Because a lot of them technically don't have professional experience, but they've been babysitters, they volunteered at their church, you know, and you know, they've done all sorts of things that we want them to start packaging. So that's, I mean, to me, it's so, I think Texas is on par to set the tone for what the Latino agenda is.
So what you're talking about is professional development. Some of these may have gone to high school, they may have gone to college, they may even graduate, they might even have higher level degrees, but they may not have the professional presentation yet.
Absolutely. And I mean, they've been working as volunteers, as independent contractors. They don't know what it's like to join the workforce. So Protectors of the Dream will also help them do that. And Tony, why don't you tell them how much money we've raised already?
Again, now being a liberal left activist, these numbers are mind-boggling. These numbers are mind-boggling because our power is numbers, animo, and a lot of work. So we in imagination, no money. So in 2 weeks, $80,000 has been collected for the grants, which is all going to the students. So it's mind-boggling when the business community teams up, and when we have both parties bringing all our brilliance to the table, it's all good for the students. And I think what's going to happen is when you hear their stories, it's like every stereotype you had. One young lady, she's an intern for us now. She's in high school. She wants to finish school, help her parents pay to make ends meet, and join the Marines.
Yeah, future Republican there, my dad.
Another young lady, she's in high school. She's in the top state level of debate, has helped fundraise for a baseball field. And the other thing too is we love to get them on the air because when there's a myth about that, you know, they don't speak English, whatever. They speak English better than most haters of Latinos have ever even been able to speak English.
No, I think that actually, I don't think there's a myth. I just think the mainstream media has created an image. And that's what this show is about, because, you know, this conversation doesn't happen on regular TV. You know, all you hear is the 1 minute or 30-second blips about how bad Latinos are or how bad this DREAM Act thing is, you know. So, but now let's get on to some a little bit more serious topics, okay? Fact is, there are people taking advantage of the situation.
Absolutely.
Okay? There are notarios out there charging anywhere from $1,000, $1,500 up to $5,000 to review an application, and they have no experience whatsoever doing any type of legal work. Is this considered legal work or not?
Absolutely, and in fact, you know, the Attorney General has clamped down on notarios taking advantage of our people. But look, the charlatans are out there also. The notarios, lawyers who normally don't practice in immigration all of a sudden are setting up their immigration departments. It's scary because this DACA, or Dream Act for childhood arrivals, deferred action for childhood arrivals, is not amnesty. There's no appeal process. Did you know that?
No.
So anyone who says that Obama's handing out amnesty is wrong. If you get this thing wrong and if you submit it and it gets rejected, you don't get to appeal it. So you got to really put some thought into who prepares it. I don't think everyone needs a lawyer. I think some people that are savvy with a computer and know how to put a document together, but maybe they don't need a lawyer. There's a lot of nonprofits out there that are accredited, and the U of H Law School also has a clinic, and they're helping a lot of kids as well. But I just urge everyone to put some thought into this application. It's not something you want done at the flea market or by the vecina who did your
income
mom's
tax.
Yeah. and the problem is you don't get to appeal it.
Your notary public.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I read between the lines that you supported President Obama's initiative on this?
Well, I think that's one thing he got right. I wish he would have acted a lot sooner.
Does this mean you're converting?
No, absolutely not. Hey, I think I'm really happy that he did do it. I wish he wouldn't have done it so close to the election. I think it was, but I'm glad he did do it. So he did get that right.
And I'll say this, just to fuel the fire, it's not enough. It's not enough. And I've heard people lament, hey, it's for politics. This is America. It's all for politics. And we got to keep pushing to say, you want our vote? It's not a done deal. We need to get more.
Ben, I feel compelled. You all put me on the spot here. I think we need to get Tony to do a shout out for Governor Perry. I mean, he stood up. He stood up. He stood up. No, but he stood up. He stood up for the Texas Dream Act.
You're right.
And took a lot of heat. And
now you sound like him.
why do you think?
If you won't do it, actually, I will, because fact is, there's a lot of people out there with no licenses, and there's a lot of situations out there where people are getting canceled. And, so if we could protect the dreamers who are actually trying to do the right thing, I mean, kudos to the state for actually, supporting the situation. So I'll be the first one to say it. And actually, for one, you'll actually hear me say it. I support Rick Perry in this situation for this one.
And all kidding aside, for everything you just mentioned, it's exactly correct. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, we're helping really. We're blessed that we can shape the American dream, and if they know that business people are watching too, this could be how other states learn to act instead of Arizona's example.
In my line of business, the hardest thing that I have to deal with is for someone who's either on TPS and it cancels, or their visa is getting renewed but is temporarily not in place. These immigration situations where the state is turning around saying, "Oh, you don't have an active visa? Sure. You don't have a driver's license." So they didn't lose their driver's license, it's temporarily expired until they get the paperwork back. Well, the state doesn't give you a driver's license, so your insurance company cancels you and doesn't renew you. So you get into all kinds of difficult situations. You're left, this is a family, mother or father or child, and it's like, this sucks, So there's a lot of administrative issues surrounding all that.
By the way, you can edit out my endorsement.
No, it's there. It's live TV. It's out. It's out. So there's got to be some other problems out there. I mean, I've actually had customers come in and say, "Hey, can you notarize?" No. I'm not in the legal business. So how can people? Where do you find these accredited organizations? I heard accredited.
Well, neighborhood centers is one. Fiel is another one. The University of Houston Law Center has a immigration clinic. And Catholic Charities has one. Don't forget lawyers also. Lawyers that practice in this area should be considered also.
And we list them on the website, protectorsofthedream.org as well. But it's going to take a lot of work. So people need to stay on their toes, look at opportunities like this, and lucky there's shows like this that they can get all this information, because otherwise, they're not getting all the details as well.
But Jacob, the Greater Houston Partnership was behind this initiative a couple of years back. They brought Geraldo Rivera into Houston, remember, and was pushing for all this. So it's not just, granted, Marek and these other gentlemen you mentioned, but heck, the fuel that feeds the Houston economy is the Greater Houston Partnership, and if they're behind this initiative, it's so there's a lot of the business Anglo community. If you would, nonpartisan business community after this.
Greg, and I think that's because the Houston way, the Texas way, has always been, let's solve the problem. Let's not grandstand like they do in Arizona. Let's solve the problem.
And I think you're going to have some dreamers on. It is a student movement, too, that's taken years. And what's beautiful to see is the student movement join with these professional groups. And I think incredible things are about to happen.
Let me change the subject just for 1 minute, because we know you're the treasurer of the election for HISD bond, right?
Well, I was waiting for my chance.
You want to chime in on that one? We're going to go to the bond?
I agree with Ben. I mean, these kids need a decent place to learn. And when you look at the numbers, it is our kids that are being impacted. And the numbers don't lie. These schools have been neglected. We got a superintendent who's trying. We got a board that's engaged. Let's fix the schools. And
what does the superintendent earn? Huh? He's trying.
Well,
I mean, you make it sound like he's not over here. He's getting paid handsomely, and he's probably got some exit strategy contract in case. Oh, that's baloney. It's
Greg, but all of these superintendents earn, fairly well, and they have an important job. I mean, we mess up on educating these kids.
But people have to understand is the politics that are involved when the superintendent is not out there caring for the schools. He's out there trying to get board members reelected on it because he ramrods right over them and bulldozes and sends them on a trip to San Francisco, and they'll rubber stamp anything. That's bull. But that's bull. That is a waste of money. It's a waste. The time is, we're looking at probably going into recession in 2013. And to do it, I mean, it's terrible timing, terrible. I think the waste and the accountability, there's got to be something there. But Greer, to put him up as the super Madonna bull, he's getting paid.
I think we need to bring in the board members so we can actually have them defend themselves on this situation. I mean, what do you think?
I still think the bond election is crucial for our community. I think the number's a little high.
Why don't we just raise the taxes? Or we just want to keep ignoring that?
$1.89 billion is a little steep, and might be a little hard for the Tea Partiers to swallow.
Hey, I'm fine with it. If it's for the kids, I think it's a good investment.
Then why don't we just pay that in the first place? Because we keep cutting taxes, but we keep asking for more bonds.
And I'm glad you're bringing up the issue because they need to be scrutinized. I mean, you should do a whole show maybe talking to them because they still got to earn our vote. I'm curious if they go to enough of which of the schools. I'm with you. We need to spend it, but I want it to go to school where I'm talking about the barrios too.
Yeah, but we need to earn it first.
And also HCC. We got to look at the HCC. Get them in here too to talk about where the money's going as well.
But how can you spend money that's not earned yet? Okay.
But don't you all think that people are coming to Houston for the jobs and they're bringing their families? So we have to have the infrastructure for these families. And that's why HCC needs a bond, because we are a magnet. We're bringing people from all over the country because they want part of this Houston economy.
But if you look at the real estate bubble and use that for an example, and people were spending money that they didn't have that created the bubble that ultimately burst it. And it inflated property values and homes and everything else. And when it popped, it popped. And the reality came, and you hurt more people than what you helped. So I disagree. It's terrible timing.
Well, let's get back on subject, because I think that needs to be a show on its own. I think we truly need to dedicate an entire hour to at least the true definition of all these
The voters
bonds.
need to remember, it's all big business. If it was for the kids, so have it. But where the money funnels through and then what falls for the kids, that's the real issue there.
Education has a lot of problems, and it's a lot more than just a bond. It's the engagement of the parents, the teachers actually being satisfied with what they're doing every day. There's a lot more issues than just the building itself. But going back to the subject that we're here for, the dreamers. Any other horror stories that you guys have been hearing, and any skepticism over the program you guys are setting up?
A couple of things too, and you can talk to the dreamers themselves, but I've been hearing just people scared to say, well, do I get on the radar? Yeah. Do I not get on the radar? What are the implications? And I think, one, yes, you got to study the issue like you were pointing out, but you're on the radar.
Yeah.
If you get pulled over driving without a license, you get on the radar hard. If you're working con un número chueco, you're on the radar hard.
That's worse.
That's worse. So it's kind of like you're on the radar. If you're at a school, you're on the radar. So part of me too is that's the other thing that Protectors of the Dream is doing as well, is we're witnesses to say that our young stepped up, complied. How is this, whichever administration is in charge, little shout out there to the election coming up. Who's ever in charge, they
Tell
need
us how
to
you really feel.
they need to do right by our young.
What's the name of the website? So say it.
Protectorsofthedream.org.
Protectorsofthedream.org. Okay. So
I like the name.
It is. It's a good
Catchy
name. So we're gonna take a quick break right now. Okay, and we're gonna bring on some dreamers, and we'd love to have you guys stay with us. And we're going to get into the details. We're going to get into the meat and potatoes, all right? So
Great.
if you are watching Latino Talk TV, you'll be right back. We'll be right back. Sorry.
Take a seat here.
All right. Still watching Latino Talk TV. We are live here in Houston, Texas, and now we have a full house. As you can see, we have with us, in addition, we have 3 dreamer activists. Okay, please introduce yourself.
My name is Isaac Valdez. I'm a student at the University of Houston downtown. I'm a junior, applied mathematics major, and I'm also a dreamer activist on campus and off campus.
Okay.
My name is Joanna Castañeda. I am also a student at the University of Houston downtown.
All right.
I am an activist for the DREAM Act.
What's your major?
Chemistry.
Chemistry.
Wow.
Yes. Okay.
My name is Andres Ponce, and I'm a student at the University of Houston main campus, and I'm double majoring with print journalism and political science.
I just want you to know that we all came together in the station wagon.
Yes, you did. As they say, road Mexican. Okay, so you guys are dreamer activists, okay? And right now, this is going to sound like a crazy question, but how do you spot a dreamer? And anybody can chime in on this one because there's a lot of stereotypes. When you watch the news, you see a short, dark, Hispanic-looking kid on the screen, and that's the dreamer title.
Well, you know, we had class with the Leadership Institute a few weeks ago, and you shared a very emotional story. I think it's important for the viewers to hear part of that story.
Well, about 8 years ago, I came to this country. Was brought by my family. I didn't have an option to come here. And of course, for a better future, better job for my parents, and a better education for us. And I didn't acknowledge that I didn't have the same opportunities or the same tools that my friends around me have at that time. And as I grew older, I started to see those things and how people put you on a different level because you're not the same, because you don't speak the same language at an early stage. And now that when I started my freshman year at the University of Houston downtown, I felt that shift, as in like you don't have the same resources that your friends around you do. You can't apply to the scholarships that they can. You don't have the internship opportunities that they have. So that puts you to the side. And even though a lot of people, like personally, I didn't tell my friends that I was undocumented. And a lot of them didn't know that I was undocumented because I was president of several clubs at my university and held other positions, and they never thought that I was undocumented until I shared my story publicly at one of the recent FIELS events that they had at our university before the deferred action was announced. And at that point, a lot of them realized that I was undocumented, and they were dazzled about it because they didn't expect that from me, because I was doing all these things that a lot of them weren't doing, and even though they had those resources available to them. And they didn't realize that I was undocumented because I was still doing the same things that any of them could have been doing at the same time. So I don't think there's a specific way to say this person is a dreamer or this person is not, because at that level, everyone has the same opportunities. It's all on a personal level of what you want to achieve and what you want to accomplish with your life.
Isaac, what are you going to do with your work authority when it arrives?
Hopefully, I have high aspirations to go to graduate school. So hopefully, I would like to continue my education for graduate school and eventually become a college professor, mathematics, and hopefully have a business on the side as well.
Wow.
Multitasker. Speaking of multitasking, if you're watching the show, call in. We're welcome to chime in. The number is 281-846-5079. That little number right there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
You know, I tell you what, I want to hear from the young ladies your perspective, and you use the word activist and what have you, and your students at the University of Houston, and give us the perspective from a young female Latina. What is the perspective?
The way I see it is, honestly, at home, my older brother and sister, they're undocumented. And to see my sister, she actually graduated from nursing school about 3 years ago. She can't work at a hospital. So it's sad to see her, you know, not be able to use her degree, not to be able to work at a hospital, not to see her not be able to do what she wants to do. And my brother, at the same time, he's actually in his last year at main campus. So once he graduates, what can he do, you know? If my sister already graduated, but, you know, she stopped and she can't work. So once he graduates, it's going to be the same thing. And I think it's wrong, and that's why I'm with the Dreamers, and I want them to actually be able to accomplish their dreams.
So how could a Latino or Latina be a Republican? Let me ask you that.
I could talk about that all day long. But what a power!
He's asking her. There you go.
Jacob felt compelled.
We'll hold off on that response. You're welcome to answer.
No comment?
No comment? Yeah,
Well, I guess it's the same situation for myself. I was really lucky that I was born here. My parents are from Mexico, though, and for me, it just makes me think I could have easily been in their situation. I could have easily been a dreamer as well, and I have many friends who are dreamers at U of H, and they're some of the most patriotic, the most intelligent, and most driven people I know. And for that reason, I choose to stand with them as well, because I could have been in that spot too, but I see that they can add so much more to this country. And for me, it's important that people in our situation, I guess, that we can help and we can be a voice for the voiceless. We should stand up with them and help them to reach this dream. So,
Mr. Monty, I had a question for you.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with the Republican Party. It has to do with those people that were born here in the United States through midwives and don't have any paperwork. Are they kind of like in limbo because they're not really dreamers, but then again, they are dreamers?
Yeah, well, they're clearly not dreamers or DACA eligible. In order to be DACA eligible, you have to have arrived in the U.S. before you turn 16, and you have to have resided continuously in the U.S. For the last 5 years as of June 15th, 2012. And then here's the hard part. You have to be under the age of 30. So a lot of the kids that were born with from parteras, midwives in the valley aren't going to qualify. They have a different problem. And it's a real challenge to get a passport if you were born in the valley from a midwife. It's not impossible. They make you jump through some hoops, and you know, God forbid you weren't delivered by the few bad parteras that were notorious for selling birth certificates, but you have to prove that with affidavits, and it's a problem. So this DACA relief helps a small, minor group of the entire undocumented community. There are a lot of people it doesn't help, and for them, we need to keep asking for more. And as Tony said, this is not enough. We need to demand from both parties that this issue get fixed. It needs to get fixed, and it needs to happen now.
Well, let's ask the hard questions, okay? Let's just be honest about what's really going on out there, because truth is, we're asking for a specific population to get the authorization to work, while we have hundreds of thousands of people still sitting on the unemployment line. We have people dropping out of high school that are U.S. citizens. We have the highest incarceration rate than any other country in the world. So why should we do this?
Let me say something as well too, because also as we go out as protectors of the dream to get funds, the first knee-jerk reaction, and I've been in a nonprofit, was, hey, that's funds that could have been ours. The folks that are donating, never in their life would have donated to these other nonprofits for different sorts of reasons. What we're appealing to the business community is don't give jobs away, create jobs. Come up with, balance the budget, find out different fields, make room for these folks.
The other thing is, I think it's not true that the Dreamers aren't in the workforce. They are in the workforce. Unfortunately, they're using fake documents. They're having to live a lie. Your name is Pedro and they call you Juan. How long does that go on? So they are in the workforce. The Dreamers aren't going to take anyone's job away. They may assuming their real identity, but I think it's misleading to think that they're going to all of a sudden enter the workforce. A lot of them are in the workforce right now. They may not be working in the jobs they're qualified for, even though they're a nurse. Maybe they're not working as a nurse.
And also, if you look at it from another side, this is like John's siblings. We have students that have completed their degrees, and what are we doing with those people now? They're just sitting on the sideline, not giving back to the country where they got their education from. So if you look at it from that perspective, you have another pool of people that are just resources to this country that are not being used.
The other thing about that too, regardless of the race, color, creed of our young, we tell them education is important, and I'm proof of that. I think other kids who don't fall under this issue, to see people valedictorians with completing advanced degrees and not pursuing their career, it's hurting America. And other students are going to say, well, you know what, it's a racket. It doesn't matter. And I think it hurts the American dream for everybody to have, not to be able to pursue the full-fledged experience to education, and it's a brain drain on top of it. It's a lot of talent.
So what you're saying is, like, we have a undocumented person taking a position. Then this U.S. citizen that has the same qualifications or better qualifications, he's unemployed. He or she's unemployed. But now we're going to give this person who's undocumented the right to legally be there.
No, that guy got the job already.
He already
got the job. You're describing got the job already.
But he shouldn't have the job, right?
He got the job already. So the guy you're describing, the American with papers, he got the job already.
He's unemployed. He's on unemployment line.
Yeah, maybe he wants to be unemployed.
Well, I tell you what, if
the Republican comes out.
Work. We got to put the work back in welfare. I mean, but I was moved at the last Protectors of the Dream seminar that we had in Southwest Houston. About 10% of maybe 20% of the kids were in ROTC. These kids want to give back. They're patriotic. They're connected to this country. To say that they're not is just not true. I mean, they bleed red, white, and blue. We just got to make them official now. It's a first step, but they love this country, and they'll defend this country. We just got to register.
At some point, too, we're going to have job fairs. We haven't finalized this. There are people that need work. Workers. They need workers.
There is one message.
Qualified workers.
Definitely.
Qualified workers.
There is one message. The DACA applicants have to be better than the U.S. kids. They have to have an absolutely clean criminal record. Misdemeanors normally don't matter in an immigration context. For Dreamers, they do. You can't have a DWI. You can't have a crime that could affect your moral character. So for those Dreamers out there, the message needs to be, it might be unfair, but you have to be better than the U.S. citizen. You have to keep your nose clean, and you have to apply.
And you'll be under more scrutiny.
How does that sound to y'all? I mean, we're the old guys. They're the old guys. I'm not the old guys. What do you, when you hear all these requirements, what do you think? What's going through y'all's head?
For me personally, I still don't see how some people could want to block this type of legislation. They're asking the best, the brightest. All these requirements makes it almost not impossible, but it's only for the best of the best. Why would anybody want to block something that would only bring a great workforce, something additional that could help our country? And I just don't see how some people still want to stop this when we're asking so much of them. It's literally the best.
And again, I've been volunteering at FIEL's offices, and you wouldn't imagine the amount of people that don't qualify, and we have to turn them back. Yeah. So it's not that a huge pile of these people are going to be able to apply, because they're not. A lot of them don't meet all the requirements, and you just have to turn them down and tell them, hey, you can't apply. You're just going to waste your money. So, I mean, it's a very specific group of people that are only eligible for this type of program.
I have two questions. One for you, Jake. Are they allowed to vote once they become?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
All they're getting is a work permit. I agree with you. I mean, for those people that are upset right now, they're not permanent residents. They can't vote. They're not eligible for welfare. It's just a permission to work.
Greg,
So they can't get welfare.
They can
No,
never
cannot
get
get
welfare.
unemployment.
Yeah.
you know, Greg Compian has put a lot of money, his own money, into getting people out to vote. Do you feel that there's a fire under people's belly because of this issue? Are people going to go to the polls? Your age group?
I believe so. Personally, I've been involved with a lot of voting events myself, even though I can't vote myself. And we're trying now, at this point, we're trying to mobilize our university, and we're trying to come up with an event called Walk to Vote. So hopefully we can get a good number of young students to go out and vote, because it's time. It's time for our population to start stepping up and coming to the polls.
But do you see it on a mass level that they actually want to get involved in the process, or do you see just a few?
Honestly, it's not what I expect or what I would like it to be. It's not a vast majority of them. It's a small group, but I believe that if we start small, we'll eventually build it up to where we have a large group of people that can step up to the plate.
I think the young lady right there on the end, the first word she said is that I'm not a dreamer, but I stand with them because I think it's unfair. And she feels like she has a responsibility, so she's dedicated her time and her service and her resources to help. And I think that everyone else out there needs to do the same thing, because you're absolutely right. You have a obligation, you really do, to help someone, to give them an equal opportunity of what you have, of what I have. And opportunity, talk about that word, opportunity. Think about it. You know, and not to have it like your sister, a nurse, but yet you go to the hospital and you can't even speak to someone without knowing Indian, or you can't understand. I'm being honest. So I mean, it's crazy, and I applaud you. I really do.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's why, like you guys were saying, it's so important to get mobilized for the elections in November, because, I mean, if we always say we have a voice, but we don't go to the polls and we don't show it, nobody's going to listen to us. And that's why it's so important for all of us, especially the young people, to mobilize, to want to get active. Because if we say, you know, oh, listen to us, but we're not there, they don't see why they should listen to us. So that's why we need to get mobilized.
You know what, too? There's a lot of pockets being activated. There was the Caravan for Peace, that was a whole activist group. We've got the Dreamers, the Hispanic National Bar Association, LULAC is on NHPO. There's a lot of pockets that once we connect the dots, I really think this election could be a big turnaround. And let me add one other thing. There's a myth that Latinos are not united and that we don't vote. I want to remind people that during the Kennedy election, there were Viva Kennedy clubs throughout the country, started by Dr. Garcia from Corpus Christi, Texas, and Kennedy won because of the Latino vote back then. That's not reported on because we don't have Mexican American history as a compulsory course, but we've delivered elections before, and although the outside world doesn't quite see it, all these pockets, even all the business groups that we haven't even mentioned, I think we're teetering on another huge movement like that with just a few clicks or the right inspiration.
Joanna, what do you think? You've been quiet here, right? What's going through your mind?
Well, I wanted to actually go back to what you're saying, how it's our moral obligation to give back. That's actually my belief. My parents are also undocumented, so for me, I'm turning 21 in November, so I'm just waiting basically for me to help them out as well. And also, even though it's the time for me to help my brother and sister, it's gonna take too long for them. Like, my brother got an estimate, it would take about around 30 years, 40 years for him to wait. So how could he wait that long just so he could work? Yeah. So
that's crazy.
It is.
Thank you. So for my parents who have been hardworking, who have been here for over 20 years, who have not committed a crime, to see them not be able to go back to the homeland, not be able to go back to Mexico, it's hard, and I want that to give them back that opportunity.
So what I want to do right now is I'm going to ask the question that all the non-us people are thinking. Okay, why did they come over here in the first place? Why didn't they just stay where they were at? See, that is what unfortunately people think, and that's what's being covered on mainstream media. So please respond to that so they can hear the true response, okay? And because you hear that those little 2-second blips, right, all the time. So please respond to that and the good that's been done here.
Why we come here? Again, like I said before, I was a kid. I wasn't given the option to if I wanted to come here myself or not. And even if I was given the option, I was of no age to make a decision myself. So my parents just brought me here. And again, if we look at the Deferred Action Program, it's actually applying to a lot of youngsters that didn't have an option to decide on their own if they wanted to come to this land or not. And personally, like myself, now that I'm here, I don't know a lot of, I feel like I don't know anything from Mexico, as in like I don't know, anything at all, because I've been living here all of the rest of my life. And even though I came when I was 12, at 12, all of you think about it, it's, just play and whatever. And now after 12, you don't think about those things. You're actually creating your professional life, your career. And now when you have a university study and all of that, it's like you can't just take all of that and go back and try to apply it over there because you're very unfamiliar with what's going on over there. So that's one of the things. And another thing, if we look at the big picture here, the deferred action is not, I don't feel it's giving something additional to those people. It's just providing equality. It's giving them the tool to say, okay, the American citizen and the undocumented now have the same level of balance. And that's what the American dream is all about.
Before we have run out of time, we have someone in the guest, in the audience, that we should recognize. Mm-hmm. And that's Jesse Rodriguez. He's the chairman of the National Hispanic Professional Organization here in Houston. And many of y'all know him as Jumpin' Jess, the famous DJ from Kakuka. He was a radio DJ for 25 plus years. So that makes him about 80 years old.
Well, thanks for being here, Jess. And I want to bring back to where we're at. And we're about 5 minutes out before the show runs out. And I want you to please leave us with your closing remarks and why should someone get engaged and participate and how they should participate. And you want to start on that side? Okay,
well, for me personally, I want to get involved because I feel like I was given a huge opportunity to be a citizen in this country. And we should use that opportunity to the fullest. And in order to do that, we should help others who don't have this opportunity. And one of those involves voting and making your voice heard. So if you have that opportunity, take it and use it to help others.
Awesome. Joanna?
It's my moral obligation to help not just my family, but my friends, everybody else who's in the country who wants the same thing, who wants to graduate from college, who wants to work. So I believe that I have to give back.
All
right. I feel that it's a calling. It's something that we're supposed to do as humans, is to have equality among other people, not just our own, not just specific groups of people. I don't look into ethnic groups or stuff like that because we're all the same and we should all have the same opportunities and equality. So I feel it's my responsibility to not just help those around me, but a larger community, and that's what I'm trying to do.
All right. Gentlemen?
Protectors of the Dream, you can sponsor a dreamer and pay his filing fee. It's $465, protectorsofthedream.com. We're on the web. We're accepting donations from the business community, from individuals. We need to mobilize the entire community to help the dreamers.
Let me clarify. Protectorsofthedream.org or .com?
Both will go there.
Both will get
and .net. We bought them all.
.org, .net, .com, not everything, right? Can we Google it too?
Yes.
You can Google it, and we're there.
Awesome. Tony?
You know what? I have a quick 3-line poem called Hard Work. My parents picked crops. I picked my destiny. My parents took jobs no one else wanted. I create works no one else imagined. My parents believed in the American dream. I am blessed to shape it.
Wow.
Wow. I wish I was a poet.
Right?
You know, see, I think what people really need to look at, and all three of these young people said opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. And look at the countless people that lose their life trying to get here in the deserts. The truck that wrecked a month ago and 12 people died. The trailer in Victoria 8 or 9 years ago, just looking for a better opportunity.
That's it.
So I tell you what, you're absolutely right. Everyone has an obligation to help out and do their part.
Now, I agree.
Give money, volunteer, vote, and help.
Absolutely, and I agree 100%. I'm a big supporter of the DREAM Act and the Dreamers, and also the responsible dreamer, because we all have to be honest. Now, not all U.S. citizens are responsible either. Okay, so it needs to be the responsible dreamer, in my opinion. And that being said, I think that if we help someone, establish themselves, we create that opportunity, because in this country, everybody crossed something, except for the Native Americans, right?
Absolutely.
So, that being said, you are watching Latino Talk TV. Are we almost out of time? I think we are, right? Yep.